we have got to have a chat about buildings in EU5, and with that cringy intro out of the way, sorry, I have always wanted to start a video with, we have to have a chat about something. It felt weird, not going to do it again, let's move on. But I do. I want to talk about buildings in EU5 because there are certain things that have me a little bit concerned. I have an concern, and this video is me trying to get my thoughts out there. It's not scripted. I just want to, relay my fears, relay my skepticism, relay my worry, and with any luck, the developers will see this, and then at some point they'll be able to show, by the way, Lambert, your concerns about this were completely, moronic because we have this system. I'd love that. I would love to be wrong, but if I'm not, and this is something that is a little bit of a worry, this is something that, I am right that it doesn't look so amazing. If I'm not wrong about that, I'd love for the developers to see that and maybe add in such a system to make me wrong, right? That kind of makes sense, that kind of wavelength thinkingness. But anyway, let's have a look at the building dev diary just a moment so we can remind ourselves that there are hundreds of different types of buildings, and that is already very incredible, right? Some of them can only be built in rural, some in towns or cities. If you've played Imperator, you'll be familiar with that kind of system. Some only on a coast, obviously. You can't build, a port up a mountain in the Himalayas. It just makes sense. Some buildings only allowing you one level. Some having a fixed cap in levels. So, you have a building and you can upgrade that building. And then however much you can upgrade it, we don't really know. Some having a cap that scales with population or development. Some having a fixed cap. What is these caps? It's different building to building. We haven't yet seen a Saturday building that shows this is the level cap of this building, and maybe we should. Some of them scale with population development and so on. Okay, that's all well and good, but for the fact that we know that EU5 is going to have just an insane number of locations. The world map has over 27,000. And that is compared to, I think, like 8,000 in EU4. If we take just England, for example, and I'm not talking about Wales, I'm not talking about Scotland or Ireland, which, Ireland has way more province density or location density than England, and this is yet to be reviewed. This will get more dense. I'm almost certain of it. In England alone, there are 111 locations. 112 if you count Berwick. Let's count it, whatever. If you include Wales, so that we can compare it to EU4, and I guess also include the Isle of Man for that same reason. I'm still not including anything in Ireland, even though, they own Meath, whatever, that doesn't matter. If you include Berwick and the Isle of Man and Wales, that is 130 locations. In EU4, including the Isle of Man, including Wales, including all of England, we have 31. That is a huge increase. It can't be denied. That is a huge increase in the amount of locations. And if you think about how you go about building in EU4, let's say we have a macro builder, fantastic. I want to build a bunch of docks. I want to click through here and build a bunch of docks, fine. I also want to build a bunch of courthouses, whatever. This system is completely incompatible with that level of location density. It's completely incompatible with having that many locations. That is just honestly far, far too many for this system. So we're gonna need something else. At the same time, and I guess this has somewhat been confirmed because a bunch of the Saturday buildings have been released and none of them have said this costs, 100 gold or 85 gold if you've got some bonuses. You don't have a gold cost for any of the buildings. They are only taking, so far it seems, resources, which I like. I do like that system, but I am also thinking we're going to have some way of automating this building system. And I'm not talking about the initial building. I do kind of want these initial buildings, me choosing what I want to build in each individual location. I want to still have that decision making. I do kind of want some way that we can give, control of an area. Probably an area is the right size. In EU5, an area is going to be, the size of bigger, smaller than this, but bigger than, these. Maybe actually that might be an area. Maybe a couple of them would be. Whatever. Maybe we could give control over that through the cabinet, and then they can decide what buildings to build. I know there is the ability to have your... if I go back to here, I know there's the ability to have your estates construct buildings, right? And that's going to help a little bit, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to help enough, especially as some of the buildings that are being built by these estates aren't actually good for you, right? The pure estates usually have a drawback to them as well, and it's not even too easy to remove them. If we are going to be having to micromanage 130 locations in an England that hasn't expanded, if we take away Wales, because, they technically, you don't need it, you haven't expanded, it's 111 locations. Without Wales, in England, in EU5, there's 111 locations. If you're having to build in each one of them, that's a bit micro-heavy. It is a little bit micro-heavy, and I do like the idea of more granularity. Don't get me wrong, that is something I'm so in favor of. But we need a new system, and I really would like a dev diary at some point showing off, this is how you play the game. This is fine. All of this here is fine, showing me how the mechanics function. Okay, that broad over strokes. Whatever. That's fine, but I really need a dev diary to be like, I did this, and then I did this. I need an AAR, basically, an after action report of Johan or someone else playing the game and showing me how the system functions. Because right now I'm kind of worried. I really am kind of worried. And before someone says, oh, but there's no requirement, right? You're not required to build these buildings, and there's no indication that you're going to have to build a ton. If we go back to EU4, right? How many building slots have we got here? In total, let's take one that doesn't have that, 12. 10 if they've got a natural harbour, right? But 12 buildings. And there's no building slots in EU5, but there's also no indication that we'll need to have so many buildings. Except there kind of is. And again, if I go back to the dev diary, I'll skip over this. If we go to the institutions dev diary, to get manufactories to spawn with the dynamic institution setting, which I will be using because I think it's better than absolute historical locations, manufactories requires 100 levels of building, right? Whether this means a single building needs to be 100, I don't think that is the case. I think it is all of your buildings in a location, including all of its levels, add them all together, and we get 100 to spawn manufactories. Is that what, 1550? When's manufactories in EU4? Manufactories is 1650. My apologies. But okay. 1650, we're looking at 100 building levels. But it gets a little bit worse. Again, I say worse. If there's a system where this makes sense, then fantastic. If we go down to the industrialization, that requires 250 building levels. I mean, I think it's great that we're seeing the amount of pops that we might be able to expect in a really high tier city, sure. But 250 building levels, if I have to go and click on every single one of those If building 250 levels of building requires 250 clicks at a minimum, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy that. I really don't. I really, really don't. And of course, it's easier for someone like me. And I'm not saying I'm in any way unique here, because this is something available to basically everyone who has an auto clicker, right? And I can just do that real easy, real quick. Maybe I don't want the same building everywhere. Maybe I do want to have a little bit more of a, I want to dig deep and like, okay, this location definitely wants this building and this location. That's totally possible. That's totally doable. That's fine. I like that is available if you want to get into the nitty gritty and say, I want this building here, and for each of your locations, you really want to micro it. I think to get to 250 this way, if that is the only way of building buildings, I'm not sure I'm going to love that. And I really want to love that. I really want to love this game. I am, like I say, almost everything that I've seen for this game, I am 100% on board with and 100% behind, because I have loved what I've seen. I am just worried about the amount of micromanagement it is going to require to build buildings, and I really don't want EU5 to fall into a pitfall trap of being essentially a cookie clicker. Paradox already has a cookie clicker. It doesn't need another one. And that's not even mentioning production methods. Like, all buildings will have at least one. And obviously, if you only have one production method, then you don't need to worry about it. You're not going to have any issues. But that's not the case for a lot of buildings, right? You are going to have, for example, this distilleries guild that is just been shown yesterday. There are 6 different production methods that you are going to have to choose between. Are you choosing between them in every single location? Is there going to be some kind of way that we can change all of them on the fly? Or is there going to be some way of letting the AI take care of that for us? Basically say, look at these production methods and just choose the one that is going to be cheapest for me. Which one do I have the most of the various different goods, right? Do I have a lot of potatoes? Well, do this one. Do I have a lot of wine? Then do this one. Something along those lines, because otherwise, like, that's a whole extra layer of micro on top of the micro that we're already clearly expected to do. I'm recording this part the day after I recorded all the rest of it, because I just thought of it while I was laying in bed, and then I was like, oh damn, there's actually, it's even more dire than I was already thinking. Dire is probably not the right word, but, this part's getting edited in later because I was thinking of it in bed. But, yeah, I don't know, the production methods is just like adding an extra layer onto the worry that I already have about the building system. I really do hope there is something to alleviate that. Anyway, that's my worry. I hope this is not coming across as super overly negative, because while I don't want to be just 100% positive all the time, because whatever, I want to be real, right? I want to have a balanced perspective the whole way. If I see something that I don't like, I'm going to point it out, and I would hope that it is taken as it's meant, right? I hope it's taken as me trying to help, me trying to get a point across so that things can be changed, right? It's constructive criticism rather than hate, right? But I also, like I say, I don't want to be just all bubbly, positive. I'm not a shill, right? I hope the video came across in the way that I'm intending it. I really want to love this game, and I am worried that micromanaging buildings is going to take away from that. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you all very much for watching. A little bit of a random video that I am making at 4:30 in the morning. Insomnia is great, guys. And I will see you guys on Wednesday for another Dev Diary video, which I think is going to be great, because it is... I'm not going to lie, I've completely forgotten what we're getting on Wednesday, because my memory is Torrid. Conquest, isn't it? It's Conquest. Yes, Conquest in integration and accessibility. Look, that's probably going to be great. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.